They did it. The Boston Celtics are your 2024 NBA champions. They beat the Dallas Mavericks 4-1. And what a night it was last night. What an incredible night. What an incredible season this was for the Boston Celtics. And we're headed into the offseason, and they're just going to be looking to repeat. Welcome into Teletown Talk. My name is Jackson Tolliver. I am so excited to break down the Celtics season. They're the only thing I'm going to talk about today because, the Red Sox are doing pretty good right now, to be honest with you. And the Revs have won 3 in a row, but it's like all I can do is talk about the Celtics team today. I'm just so impressed. I'm so proud of them. They have done right by this city. They have made this city proud. They broke a 5-year drought without championships, which to some cities doesn't sound like a lot, but to Boston, we all know it's a lot. 5 years is a long time to go without a championship, and the Celtics have done it. Truthfully, I'm at a loss for words at just how special this was. Being able to cover it for the first time, thanks to CLNS, it has just been such a privilege and an honor to be able to be a part of a team covering the Celtics. It's a dream come true. I couldn't be more excited for this championship and for what the future holds. And the paranoid aspect of me was just so nervous after they went down after it was 3-1 after they lost to the Mavericks, because the Mavericks won in such a convincing way, right? That was just an absolute blowout. And I'm thinking, well, if the Mavericks can win Game 5, send this back to Dallas, then you start worrying because they win Game 6, come back to Boston for Game 7, it's Luka and Kyrie, and you just didn't want to put yourself in that position. So I was nervous. But what I forgot was, I think it was really a variety of factors. For one, the Celtics are just so good, and they've been so good all year, and they've bounced back so well after losses, no matter how big or how small. And Kyrie Irving turned into, Ish Smith as soon as he stepped back into the TD Garden, which I also, should have accounted for. But yeah, overall, I was getting a little nervous because Friday's loss was so bad, but they silenced that. All throughout the game, you just knew they were going to win. After that first quarter, I think they were up by 10 or so. You just, for whatever reason, you just knew it was over. The Garden crowd was great last night. Wish I could have been there. The streets after the game were just bonkers. People everywhere. It was a championship party. And it was just so breathtaking to see. And I'm so proud of this team. Let's just go down the line here because I want to talk about the journey of the Celtics team overall from where they started in this era, right? And I'll call this era, right around when JB was drafted, right? So Paul Pierce is long gone. KG is long gone. Rondo just leaving. Smart's on the team. You got Smart, you got JB, you got Jonas Jerebko, Jay Crowder, and Avery Bradley, I believe, was the starting 5 that they would roll with. And Isaiah Thomas. I should also mention Isaiah Thomas. So those 6 guys were sort of used interchangeably. And, that era began after we had some tough times as Celtics fans, and the Celtics were going through a rough patch where after the end of the Big 3 era, they were a tanking team. They were a rebuilding team. We had guys on the team that couldn't produce at a high level, and they were looking like the Detroit Pistons, the Washington Wizards. And but credit to the ownership and credit to Danny Ainge and credit to Brad Stevens, although he was the coach at the time, for building what the Celtics are today. And it all starts with, of course, drafting Jaylen Brown, number 3, out of Cal. Was booed by some fans when they made that selection. But you look back and, man, they just hit a total home run 2 years in a row here because Jaylen Brown, you could have picked Ben Simmons, you could have picked Dragan Bender, you could have picked who else? Brandon Ingram would have been fine, but Jaylen Brown is Finals MVP now, right? He's clearly the best player to come out of that draft class. And how they did it, I don't know. And the next year, right, to get the number 1 overall pick in the draft lottery and be so confident in Jason Tatum and his abilities that you trade back, pass up on Markelle Fultz, which everyone thought was crazy at the time, trade that pick to Philly and pick Tatum at 3. And in that situation as well, you could add Josh Jackson. There were some other duds in that draft too, albeit that was probably a better draft class than the one before that Jaylen Brown was in. This was just credit to Danny Ainge. I mean, they should send him a ring for this championship because they wouldn't be here without him. They wouldn't be here without him making those picks because those two guys are now bona fide superstars, right? Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are top 10 players in the NBA. Simple as that. And they're going to remain that way for a long time. But I mean, just to look through what these guys have both been through, right? Jaylen Brown was moved to the bench. A lot of people were upset when they signed him to that first extension. I believe it was in 2018 or 2019 when they extended him off of his rookie contract for a pretty substantial sum. I can't remember exactly what it is, but a lot of people thought it was too much for him. Clearly it wasn't. Clearly it was not enough when you consider, where he is today. But with JB, you even have to look, not far at all. Like you can just look at last year. Game 7 against Miami. Tatum goes down. Jaylen Brown has to step up, be the hero. 8 turnovers. He was just terrible in that game. He was awful. And he's up for a Supermax extension. A lot of fans are calling for the Celtics not to give it to him. They're calling for it, for them to use that money somewhere else, to trade JB for Dame Lillard or whatever it might be. And he just stuck with it. And he grinded all summer long to get to where he is today. And he comes back and plays the best basketball of his life. When Jaylen Brown got drafted, he said, "I will go to war for this city." And he wasn't just talking about with other teams. He's now gone to war with himself and gone to war with the self-doubt that starts to creep in when people within your own organization and your own fan base start to doubt you, right? They almost traded him for KD a couple of years ago. So he's had to battle with that himself, with, people from the outside saying things. You're not good enough. Trade talks constantly. He's been in trade talks for basically as long as he's been a Celtic besides this last year. And for him to come in and do what he did in this final series, not only, but in this whole playoffs and this whole regular season, what a long way that man has come. There's just no other way to put it. You have to admire that resiliency, that toughness, of course, that raw ability and that pure skill that he has on the basketball court. But you have to credit his journey. And I am so proud of Jaylen Brown for what he has done. And I am so thankful for what he has given to this organization because he is an irreplaceable player. He went out there and guarded Luka Doncic, arguably the best offensive player in the world, night in and night out. And Luka got his, right? But he never scored over 40, right? I like Luka is a guy that's capable of dropping 50. We all know that. But JB went out there and did his thing and defended at a high level, forced turnovers, forced him to be uncomfortable in his shots. Of course, Dallas would get some switches that they liked more for Luka, switch him on to Horford, whatever, which was able, or on Hauser even, which is how he got going. But when JB was the defender on him, he did not back down. And that was his assignment for most of the series. And he relishes in that. I think JB will be a strong contender for an all-defensive team next year. He won it this year. So credit to Jaylen Brown. And, after last night ended, I thought it was going to be JT Finals MVP. But then I go back and think about it, throughout last night and today. Brown was defending Luka at a high level, night in and night out, and doing what he was on offense consistently. And yeah, I think he deserves it. I think, either one of them could have deserved it. I think they should have split it, to be honest, because they both need each other to succeed, and they were both remarkable besides some of the shooting numbers that we saw in some games. Game 4 was a dud from everybody, so just wipe that one. But they were both remarkable, and I think that they should have, given it to both of them. But regardless, remarkable journey for Jaylen Brown, and you just have to admire it. I'm the most impressed with Jaylen Brown out of anybody on this team because he fought back against the critics and the doubters and the haters, and he's the Finals MVP now. He's on top of the basketball world, And that is just remarkable to see. Let's move on to Jason Tatum, who is more hated on than JB and will still be more hated on than JB for reasons that will continue to be unbeknownst to me. I guess it's because he wears green. He likes Kobe Bryant. He's a good father. I'm at a loss for words as to why this guy receives so much hate. He's just such a positive person. He is such a good father. He is such a phenomenal basketball player. That goes without saying. He probably needs to work on his shot a little bit this summer. He struggled with that in the playoffs and at some points throughout the regular season as well. Maybe go back to the lab, figure out what's going on there. Maybe a reduced volume led to that because you brought in Kristaps and Drew, who are going to be taking more shots. So his volume is obviously going to go down. So maybe less reps. I don't know what it was. He needs to work on it, obviously. But Tatum's mentality is the biggest thing that has changed from this season to last season, in my opinion. His playmaking has obviously gone leaps and bounds as well, and his rebounding has really, really peaked this year. He's been great on the glass, and he's been a great facilitator, especially when his own shot isn't falling. He's not afraid to get his teammates involved, and that's the exact mentality shift that I'm talking about that impresses me so much with Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum used to be a ball hawk, right? He used to be ISO ball. I want the last shot. Didn't really care about getting his teammates involved, seemed to care more about his individual accolades. And now here he is, a team-first player, a true team-first player who was smiling and congratulating JB when he won Finals MVP and Eastern Conference Finals MVP, by the way. Like, you can make the argument that this is now Jaylen Brown's team. And Jason Tatum doesn't care. He cares about winning. He cares about the city of Boston. He loves it here. The only number he cared about all season was 18, banner 18. And they finally have it. Jason Tatum took leaps and bounds this season as a leader, as a passer, as a rebounder, as a defender. Maybe not a scorer, but that's fine, right? You need your best player to step up and do what he needs to do. And Jason Tatum looked at this season after all the changes that happened in the offseason, right? With everything going on, after how they lost embarrassingly last year in Game 7, after they lost in the finals in 2022, after all that he's been through, all the negativity, all the hatred that surrounds Jason Tatum for no reason, he pushed through, and he is now an NBA champion, and without a doubt, a top 10, maybe a top 5 player in the NBA. And guess what? Even if you don't think he's a top 5 player, who cares? Who cares anymore? Because they won, and they're going to win again, because this team's not going anywhere. Jason Tatum's going to get that Supermax deal this summer. I believe it's going to be $315 million for a 5-year deal. Love to see him staying on board. And the Celtics need him. Regardless of what you think about Jason Tatum, the Celtics wouldn't have won it without him. He's a superstar. And all the credit to him. He's my favorite player on the Celtics. I don't know what to say. I'm seeing him hold up his son last night and celebrate with his mother, go up to the podium, fighting back tears. It was emotional, and this is why sports are so important. Sports are so fun, and they mean so much because of this, because of moments like this. So beyond impressive stuff from Tatum, and he is just remarkable. Let's keep on pushing here because I want to go through everybody on the roster, like I said, and there's nobody that this means more to than Al Horford, and there's nobody that deserved it more than Al Horford, frankly. The guy has, he was catching up on Karl Malone for most playoff games without a title. Obviously, nobody's going to be talking about that anymore. Just a guy who will give anything to win, and he's always been that way. But to come off the bench this year when they brought in Kristaps Porzingis to accept his role, to accept what he needed to do on this team, Al Horford is nothing short of remarkable and an inspiration. How can you not love this guy, right? He is nothing but a great mentor and leader for these young guys. Tatum and Brown couldn't be here without him. He's, Tatum's favorite teammate he ever had. Tatum says that all the time. But also just his ability to play basketball, right? It doesn't all come up, it's not a Udonis Haslem situation. He can still play at this age. He's great at knocking down shots. he's resilient on defense. His physical abilities are obviously limited by age and will continue to be next year when I, by the way, do think he will return next year to play another year. But you got to just hand it to him. I mean, he had a remarkable season, a remarkable playoff run, and all the credit goes to him because he waited. He wanted this more than anything, and he got it. And I think I'm the most happy for Al. Actually, I know I'm the most happy for Al because all these other guys have time. Drew Holiday's a little old now, yeah, but Tatum's 26, Brown's 27. They have time. They're going to win another one, another 2, another 3. But Al Horford is running out of time, and it's so good to see him finally get over that hump in Boston, the place that he loves so much. It was just a joy to watch. I was beyond happy for him. So credit to Al, all the credit in the world to Al. We love you. Boston loves you. His number might not go in the rafters, but he will always be a legend in this city because of what he did for the Celtics organization. Both the first time and the second time, he left it all on the floor every single night. You cannot say that. Al Horford never took a night off when he was playing. Yes, he didn't play back to back, so he did take nights off. But when he was on the court, he never took a night off. So all the credit to him. Derek White. What a dog, man. Derek White is such a phenomenal player. Giving tooth and nail for this team. Literally gave up some teeth last night with that play with Derek Lively where he's going for a loose ball. Hit his front two teeth on the court. One of them chipped. He's all bloody. But if that's just not a microcosm of what Derek White is for this team, he is just a hustle player. He gives so much for these guys offensively and defensively. Mr. Clutch. I'd argue he's the most clutch shooter on the team. Whenever, the Celtics needed a bailout possession, he was the guy who would hit the three-point shot or, get them out of it. Whenever the Celtics were down late, all throughout the season, Derek White was the guy you wanted to see with the ball in his hands. He hit some really, really clutch shots this year. Particularly in the regular season, but also in the playoffs as well. I mean, in Game 3, he had a huge 3 against the Mavericks in the finals, just all throughout the playoffs. He obviously had that huge stretch of games against Miami. Games 3 through 5, he was just remarkable. After they lost in Game 2, one of their 3 losses that they had throughout these entire finals, or playoffs, rather. So Derek White is just a remarkable player. Obviously, he's been an all-defense guy this year and last year. Don't expect that to go away anytime soon. He's the best shot blocker in the NBA. Best shot blocking guard, that is. One of the best shot blockers in the NBA across all the players. And he is just such a inspirational story. Didn't have any offers out of high school. Worked his way up, through Division II and, came to the NBA with the San Antonio Spurs and didn't play his first year, really. Just kept his head down and kept working. And he is a true example of how hard work can pay off because now he's an NBA champion. I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy for his family. His dad was a huge Celtics fan growing up. And Derek White is just nothing but a kind human being. I mean, the Celtics just has so many players that are just stand-up guys off the court, genuinely. Derek White is no exception. Seems like a great father. If you haven't watched the All In series that the Boston Celtics produced, episode 4, I believe it is, starts off with Derek White talking about his kid, and they show footage of him playing with his kid, and he's just so good with them, and he is a great guy. There is nothing bad you can say about Derek White. There's just nothing bad you can say. There's nothing bad you can say about his game, about him as a person. He is just such a good role model and such a good representation of the city of Boston, and all praise in the world goes to Derek White. He is just an absolutely phenomenal player, and I really hope they can lock him down long-term this summer. I think that should be priority number 1, because if you keep this defensive backcourt with Drew Holiday and Derek White, you're looking at a lot more success in the future. Let's move on to Drew Holiday, his backcourt partner, who I just mentioned, now gets his second ring with the Boston Celtics. Obviously got his first with the Milwaukee Bucks a couple of years ago, but this guy really changed everything. I think Drew Holiday was the missing piece that they needed, and that's no disrespect to Marcus Smart. I love Marcus Smart, and I was going to mention this Marcus later, but Marcus Smart, we would not be here without you. You paved the way for these guys to shine. You mentored JB and JT as you were a little bit older, and your defensive tenacity and your energy and your grit. It is impossible to see what you left on this team. It's impossible to watch the Celtics play a game and not think of Marcus Smart when they dive for loose balls, or, when they show extreme defensive grit and put all their emphasis on that side of the floor. It's impossible to not think of Marcus Smart. But that doesn't take away from Drew Holiday and the fact that he really was what this team needed. Just a ultimate, dependable, reliable guy who can play defense at the highest level. A lot of people say he's the best perimeter defender player of the year. I don't know. It's crazy. That award is pretty rigged against guards. We saw Marcus Smart win it, but besides that, hasn't been a guard to win it since Gary Payton. I think Drew Holiday is phenomenal. And, on offense, there have been times in Drew's career where he's had to be the guy to score the ball. Coming on Boston, he obviously doesn't, right? He's surrounded by prolific scorers of the basketball. But when they need him to score, he scores, right? We saw that in Game 2 when he led the Celtics single-handedly pretty much to that win against Dallas. He was remarkable in that game. When they needed him to step up, he stepped up big. Had some duds just like everybody else on the rest of the team, including Game 4 of the NBA Finals. But overall, Drew Holiday's performance this season has been nothing short of remarkable. He is just the ultimate competitor, the ultimate leader, the ultimate teammate, and I'm glad that they locked him down. Even though, to have that extension, he's going to be going into older age for sure. He's going to get into Al Horford territory, but we saw how Al Horford can still play. And I have no doubt that Drew's ability is not going to decline significantly because, think about what he does really well. He defends at a high level. He can shoot the ball well. He makes great decisions with passing. It's like a lot of these, a lot of his skills I don't think are going to fade, right? Because a lot of it is just knowing where to be, knowing what spots you want to get into, and just knowing how to lead and just knowing how to help your team win. He is an ultimate winner, and I am so glad that he is a Boston Celtic. And of course, Kristaps Porzingis gave it his everything to play last night. Wasn't great. It looked like it was going to be pretty grim when he first came on, to be honest. He lit up like 3 open shots to Josh Green. He hit them all like open threes. Seemed like defensively he wasn't quite there, but his presence was enough to help the Celtics. He ended up finishing with a +8 last night. Obviously, Kristaps had a remarkable Game 1. He had a remarkable season overall. He was the third option for the Celtics, sometimes the second option on some nights when either JT or JB didn't have it falling. And again, credit to Brad Stevens because Kristaps Porzingis was another ultimate key to really unlocking the full potential of this team. He is a mismatch nightmare. 7-3, can finish in the post and can shoot from long range. He is one of the most impossible players to game plan around for other teams just because of his extremely unique skill set, similar to Wembanyama. Now, Wembanyama is obviously going to be, I think, better than Porzingis, but they're similar players, right? I mean, they're both ridiculously tall, can beat you off the dribble, can shoot the three, and can obviously post up because they're huge. So, guys like that are just so hard to game plan for, and if you think about, all those guys that have come through the league, like the unicorns, quote unquote, the Bol Bols and the Kristaps Porzingis, Victor Wembanyama, he sits at the top of that list right now, I would say, in terms of guys like that who are quote unquote unicorns or aliens. Wembanyama is going to take that spot from him, but he has taken that role and really revolutionized what that unicorn role really means in the NBA. And he has just done a great job with it. Another guy who the fans love him. Yes, it sucks that he is pretty injury prone. You hope that he'll be more available for you next year and next year's run. But as they showed, they didn't really need him. He is a luxury, not a necessity. And it's nice to have a luxury like that, especially when he gets along with the fans so well and just loves being in Boston. He brings so much positivity to this team. So much, like he just brings such good vibes. And I think the Celtics have sometimes struggled with that, having someone who's just constantly radiating positivity. And he does it at the highest level. I mean, he is such a great guy, and I was really happy to see him win a ring. I was happy to see him take the court yesterday, even though he's clearly in some pain, gonna undergo some surgery, I would assume, in the next couple of weeks, because he is obviously, struggling pretty mightily with that ankle injury, that extremely rare ankle injury that he picked up. And also, maybe the calf will need some work. I don't know. I do know that he will need work on that foot for sure. So going to be a long off season for him, but I cannot wait to see the improvements that he's going to bring next season. And I can't wait to see the Celtics team overall. I'm not going to get into, the whole roster top to bottom, but Peyton Pritchard, what a guy to check in and just hit that 50-footer. Yes, it might have been a travel. It's just remarkable. Sam Hauser was great in a lot of these games after really struggling in the Eastern Conference Finals, so hats off to him. He was remarkable these finals. He really had a shot going. Credit to Xavier Tillman and Luke Cornett all season long, coming off the bench, sticking to their role, understanding that the team was bigger than themselves. And of course, some of the young guys, Jordan Walsh, Jaden Springer, hopefully their games will continue to grow. And, we'll be able to see them contribute a little more heavily down the line. Overall, I am beyond ecstatic about this Celtics victory. I have waited years for this because 2008, I was so little. I was so young and I wasn't even that fully into sports back then. This is, one of the most memorable moments of my life was watching the Celtics win the championship yesterday. And that just speaks to how important this is, how serious people take it, myself included, of the Boston Celtics. This team got me into this whole sports media thing, this podcasting, whatever you want to call it. They are the reason why I do this, amongst Tom Brady and the Patriots and the Red Sox and, all the other teams, of course. But the Celtics will always have a special place in my heart. Watching Isaiah Thomas drop 53 points on his sister's birthday really just, changed how I felt about sports overall, ignited my passion for it to a whole new level. And, watching these guys and their careers progress, I've watched just about every Celtics game since Brown and Tatum were drafted. And we all know that there's been tough times. And, to those of us Celtics fans who have fought through it and never lost belief and never wanted to split up the Jays and trusted Joe Mazzulla and trusted Brad Stevens, even though it was so hard to do it sometimes, and to trust Jason Tatum to just be a team player, and to trust Jaylen Brown to work on his left hand, and to trust Al Horford to not regress with age, and to trust Kristaps Porzingis to not dislocate his knee. To trust Derek White to be worth it, to trust Drew Holiday to be committed and as locked in as he was. Celtics fans believed all season, and that never wavered. Not when they got blown out in Milwaukee, not when they got blown out in Game 4 just a couple days ago, not when they lost Game 2 against Miami and gave them home court advantage, or did the same thing to Cleveland. Celtics fans never stopped believing in this team, and this is a very, very remarkable time for the city of Boston. And Celtics fans, you should be proud of how you stuck with your team. I am proud of how I stuck with this team, right? It got tough. We all remember the bubble. We all remember 2021 when it just looked like things weren't sticking. And at the beginning of 2022, when RJ Barrett hit that buzzer beater, it just looked like the Celtics were dead in the water. It looked like Tatum and Brown weren't going to be enough. But to those of us who never stopped believing in them, this championship is for us. This championship is for the city of Boston and the fans who are endlessly loyal to this team, to this franchise, and of course to the players and to the city of Boston. What a remarkable moment. The Boston Celtics are your 2024 World Champions. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in to Titletown Talk. My name is Jackson Tolliver. I'll see you when I see you.